Hey guys, welcome back to another Mortal Kombat video. This is your boy Atriox, and I have an interesting video for you guys today. One that I actually got suggested by one of the commenters on my previous video, and it's basically just talking about like how gods, demigods, and elder gods have really just ruined Mortal Kombat's story, and just really have just made it so that like these newer games just have more to do with the gods than it actually has to do with the mortals, which is interesting enough because the game is about mortals. The whole game title is Mortal Kombat, and the fact that mortals play such a little role kind of is a little lackluster in my opinion, and I think these over-the-top games with elder gods and titans need to be downscaled a little bit. And I'm going to get into everything that I think and I kind of just want to talk about, but kind of first, like I kind of want to just like talk about what Mortal Kombat is and what Mortal Kombat was significantly for me, like as a fan, right? So Mortal Kombat has always been a story about survival, conquering your fears and facing adversity together alongside other champions. We can go back as far as the Great Kung Lao's era, all the way down to Liu Kang's era, right before the timeline stuff. I think the original Mortal Kombat movie did such a good job as it did such a great job at explaining what Mortal Kombat was. And granted, a lot of things in Mortal Kombat movie is not going to be exactly able to apply to Mortal Kombat as a whole, but you can take a lot of like what went on in that movie and apply it to Mortal Kombat, because a lot of the things that happened in the movie were very similar to how in future games Mortal Kombat treated these characters. Sonya, who was afraid to trust after the death of her partner at the hands of Kano, which we've seen multiple iterations of Sonya having that same backstory, especially like in Mortal Kombat 9, I believe it was a very similar thing to that. Like, then we have Johnny Cage, who wanted to prove himself because the world just only saw him as Mr. A-list celebrity rather than the martial artist he always was. Then we have the Chosen One. Not you, not you. Nope, definitely not you. There we are. Liu Kang's main problem was the fact that he was afraid to face his destiny, and while it seemed bizarre given like who Liu Kang is, it's not that crazy when you go back to the ending of Mortal Kombat 11. And granted, like, you know, these type of movies, like they change, they kind of change some things for these characters, but I think this movie was stayed as close as he possibly could to the game, versus like movies like Borderlands, who just went so far off from what Borderlands was. You know, that's a different video.
You must first face your fears if you are to conquer them. You, Johnny, are afraid you're fake, so you'll rush into any fight just to prove you're not. You'll fight bravely enough, but foolishly, carelessly, and you'll be beaten. You, Sonya, are afraid to admit even you sometimes need help. If you are afraid to trust, you will lose.
Wait. What about me?
Oh, you. You fear your own destiny. You already fled it once when you went to America. It has brought you guilt for the death of your brother.
Video. But anyways, like if you go back and look at Mortal Kombat 11's ending, where Liu Kang is now going to be shaping the hourglass, you can see Liu Kang noticeably struggling with the idea that now he will have to lead Earth's champions into the new era. Every fight mattered in the Mortal Kombat movie. Liu Kang, Johnny Cage, and Sonya gradually grew throughout the movie, as much of the fights led up to each of them ultimately conquering the challenges they faced. Sonya finally regarded Liu Kang and Johnny Cage as friends, trusting them to save her from Shang Tsung, who ultimately kidnapped her in order to like win the last tournament. Johnny, after seeing Art die, he didn't want to see the same fate befall Sonya, so he challenges Goro to a fight and wins, which, interesting enough, Shang still tries to challenge Sonya Blade, capturing her and bringing her to the Outworld. Then you have Liu Kang, who, with the help of Kitana, ultimately conquers all his fears in order to face his destiny and become the chosen one who he was always meant to be. Mortal Kombat has always been a story about the sacred journey of the chosen mortal men and women defending the realm with their own two hands. It's a story about taking a stand, facing possible odds, and getting through them together. It's a story about hate, it's about love, it's a story about revenge and hope. But somewhere along the line, Mortal Kombat has forgotten what it was. These newer stories seem to forget that the gods and elder gods, and even the titans were supposed to serve a much smaller role in Mortal Kombat. The story was never meant to evolve them as much as the recent games have been evolving them. I mean, after all, it's in its name, isn't it? Mortal Kombat. All the gods and elder gods and titans have just messed too much with the story to a point where it's almost unrecognizable. Honestly, I just hate to see a series I love with such a burning passion become such a Avengers multiverse ripoff. And by no means is this a video to just rag on the Mortal Kombat developers. I honestly can't even imagine how hard it is to work on these stories, but as a consumer of these games, I just don't feel like this is like a Mortal Kombat to me. Like, the story-wise, it just doesn't feel like that. Mortal Kombat had always had an air of mystery to it. Mortal Kombat has had such a rich story. The great Kung Lao's ancestor to Liu Kang, and much like Liu Kang saved Earthrealm centuries ago, preventing the merge with Outworld. He ultimately spared Shang Tsung's life, which would ultimately lead to his death at the hands of Goro 50 years later, when a much older Shang Tsung would return for the next tournament. And like, mind you, this part, I'm really just going to give you a quick summary of what the original story was for Mortal Kombat, so you can guys kind of see what I'm talking about if you're like newer to the series and don't really know it, or like if you just need a refresher. Honestly, like, just talking about Mortal Kombat, in my opinion, what it's like, I feel like giving my own take on this would really like kind of like explain why I see things the way I see them. 500 years will go by, and though Liu Kang was thought to be the chosen one, another descendant of the great Kung Lao had also been training at the same time in order to represent Earthrealm for the tournament. The two would have a battle to determine who would represent the Order of Light, and although Kung Lao was equal to Liu Kang in most regards, Liu Kang's extra attention to detail and practice would be the determining factor to his win over Kung Lao.
Do you see now why we still train?
That was a lucky strike. Let's go again. I will show you.
No, Kung Lao. The training you require is mental, not physical.
What do you mean, Liu Kang?
You cannot surpass your limitations until you acknowledge them.
Liu Kang would go on to conquering many threats: Shang Tsung, Shao Kahn, Quan Chi, and Shinnok. However, Liu Kang wasn't untouchable, and ultimately met his fate at the hands of Quan Chi and Shang Tsung. Liu Kang had died. When I first saw this, Liu Kang had died, I was distraught. I was sad, I was angry.
You fucking...
Like, they killed off my favorite character. Like, I remember thinking, how the heck are you going to continue the story of Mortal Kombat without freaking Liu Kang? Liu Kang is the story of Mortal Kombat. But that is the sign of a good world building and of good storytelling. Though Liu Kang was gone now, the story began shifting to Raiden. Now, you got to remember, at this time, gods were not allowed to interfere with Mortal Kombat, unless the Elder Gods permitted it. Raiden, who was now an Elder God after taking Shinnok's place, had gone against the Elder God's wishes and denounced his status as Elder God. In my opinion, Raiden must have felt that the death of Liu Kang was avoidable. Did he make a mistake in making Fujin the protector of Earthrealm? He had to make it right. Liu Kang was slain while meditating. How did Fujin not realize not only Shang Tsung but Quan Chi had also crossed over to Earthrealm? But Raiden had no time to question Fujin, so he gathered the remaining warriors of Earthrealm and mounted a full assault onto the newly formed Deadly Alliance and their army of dragon warriors. Even with all of Raiden's Earthrealm champions, they still lost to the Deadly Alliance, and Raiden alone challenged the Deadly Alliance. While at first he was destroying them, he would ultimately be defeated by both of the sorcerers, which would ultimately turn on each other, and Quan Chi would come out as the victor. But this victory would be short-lived, as Onaga, the fabled ruler of Outworld, would eventually return, and with this new threat, the three of them would have to mount an attack on Onaga together, which would ultimately appear futile as they would be forced to escape. Honestly, Shang Tsung and Quan Chi would escape, but Raiden would sacrifice himself to try and destroy Onaga, but which will ultimately lead him to becoming corrupt after reforming, realizing that like mortals just shouldn't be trusted, and like he should push Earthrealm to be on the offensive rather than defensive. But anyways, during that time, Onaga would start to brainwash all of Earthrealm's champions, as they weren't dead. They had only been defeated by the Deadly Alliance. But behind the scenes, Liu Kang's spirit would be working with Ermac to free all the warriors, which ultimately led to Shujinko's ending, where he absorbed all the powers of the warriors and ultimately defeated Onaga with them. Which, in my opinion, I don't really think Armageddon adds too much to Mortal Kombat's history. Like I was kind of like talking about earlier, it was the first installment of gods interfering with Mortal Kombat, as Taven and Dagon were both demigods, being the sons of Argus and Delia, and the Denian sorceress. Also, Armageddon had too much going on at this point. Trying to take anything meaningful from that game was kind of hard. It was more about the fighting than anything significant, as Taven is a new protagonist, but he's technically filling the role of Liu Kang. But it just, him being a demigod, he shouldn't be in that. He shouldn't have any kind of impact on Mortal Kombat as a whole. And like Armageddon just like began the meddling of gods into the mortal affairs, because of a vision that Delia had, and then I think the Elder Gods had tasked Argus to find a way to deal with all these combatants, even though the combatants weren't from his realm. Like Earthrealm warriors, he shouldn't have any dominion over. He should only have dominion over the Edenians, and only Edenians he should have a dominion over. He should not have dominion over all the realms, which I think is crazy that the Elder Gods would permit a regular god to have that kind of power, which I feel like is a really weird storytelling thing that they did, which I think this is why I don't really include Armageddon, because like a lot of this stuff is just kind of weird. So now my own little letter to Mr. Ed Boon. Here's what I would do if I was the writer for the next Mortal Kombat game. First off, the last DLC has to resolve the timeline stuff. Do not take this into the next game. We need to downscale Mortal Kombat back to being about mortals and not about gods, elder gods, or titans. Make the factions mean something again. The Special Forces, the Red Dragon, the Black Dragon, the Shiryu, the Lin Kuei, and the Brotherhood of Shadows. Bring the rivalries back. Make them have an impact to where you see them and you know something crazy is about to go down. Mortal Kombat 1 has started back on that path, I believe, with the Shiryu and the Lin Kuei. I think having them be at odds so early on is generally a good thing. Like, I want you guys to make the defenders of Earthrealm feel significant again. As of right now, the defenders of both Earthrealm and Outworld play such a small part in the role of Mortal Kombat 1. Like, the Titans in Mortal Kombat 1 just overcrowd them, and they just make them seem like such little roles. Mortal Kombat 1 has like genuinely treated the role of Keeper of Time, or aka a Titan, like it's such such a little role now. Like, everyone is a Titan at this point. Like, what I mean by that is, like, okay, let's take a trip back to Mortal Kombat 11. Okay, only with the combined forces of not only Outworld's army but Earthrealm's army were they even able to stand a chance against Kronika. In fact, even with the armies of Outworld and Earthrealm, the good guys lost in every single timeline. Kronika won in every timeline but this one. It's like it's really hinted at by Kronika when she converses with Raiden when she abducts Liu Kang.
At long last, you see the pattern.
The pattern, but not the purpose. Why set me against Liu Kang?
Is it not obvious? Your combined power threatens my vision for the timeline.
Liu Kang and I will not be divided further by your machinations.
Oh, Raiden. Do you think this is the first time you made that vow? We have repeated this exact conversation so often in so many timelines. I've lost count.
This timeline will end differently.
We have played out all possible scenarios, Raiden. You cannot win. You are welcome to try, of course. But without Liu Kang by your side.
The only reason they won this time around was due to Liu Kang being the chosen one and Raiden finally seeing the pattern, and with their combined powers they were finally able to defeat her. So while I understand why Shang Tsung's timeline is this due to Aftermath, timelines like Kung Lao, Kitana, Raiden, and Havoc's makes no sense, as they wouldn't have the power to overthrow Kronika, let alone operate the crown. Even the gods had a hard time using the crown, as we can see in Aftermath when Fujin tries to use the crown against Kronika.
Yes, but the crown.
So all these titans appearing just kind of diminishes the importance to the final fight of Mortal Kombat 11, in my opinion. If she was so easy to defeat, why did the era get reset? The more I think on it, the more the role of Titan seems relegated to the role similar to of a protector of a realm. Titans were meant to be the ultimate beings, and yet here we are. Like, they're higher than elder gods. Like, why are they just popping out of the woodworks at every point? We've already met 5 other titans outside of Liu Kang. We have Shang Tsung, we have Kung Lao, Kitana, Raiden, and now Havoc. Like, 5 is crazy for the short amount of time that Mortal Kombat 1 has been out. When will the story just go back to making sense, bro? Like, I feel like Mortal Kombat 11 was on that path, and then MK1 has veered so far from Mortal Kombat 11, what it was trying to do. Like, I feel like the beginning point, almost all the way up to towards the ending point where this new story was unfolding, and then when the timeline stuff got introduced, it started like messing with the story. Like, the characters just felt so unimportant. Like, you felt like Raiden was gonna become something, and then this Raiden just took a backseat, and just nothing really happened with his story. Like, there's nothing, like, Raiden's been beat up by everybody. Like, outside of the tournament, which, you know, obviously he had plot armor, he had to beat everybody. But then after that, his role seems so insignificant to Mortal Kombat. Like, he, as an Earthrealm champion, he just seems relegated to a backseat role. It just seems like he has no impact in the story, which is crazy when you think about it, when he's the new champion of Earthrealm. And like, this game is about mortals, and yet the story has nothing to do with mortals. The whole story has just been all about the Titans, all about Elder Gods, all about gods throughout the last couple of installments. It's just completely forgotten its roots, in my opinion. And like I said, this video is not meant to be negative, but like, when there's so much stuff that's just changed about what made Mortal Kombat so good, like, I feel like there's just the need to talk about it. Like, in my opinion, I think the role of Titan needs to go away.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man.
Like, make it so the gods don't play such a huge role in Mortal Kombat, as it was always intended to be. Why does it seem like these new writers don't seem to understand what the story of Mortal Kombat is? And again, I'm not trying to bash anyone here, especially the devs, because obviously I'm not a developer. I don't know what it takes to make these games, really. I'm not trying to bash them, but they need to go back and check out what made Mortal Kombat stories so good. The side stories, the rivalries, the friendships, the major battles within certain periods that was so key to the story building of Mortal Kombat. There is a lack of substance that is missing from Mortal Kombat that kept you as a fan on the edge of your seat. That particular thing is missing from the recent Mortal Kombat games. The lack of content is also missing. Mortal Kombat 11 did such a great job having so much content to keep you engaged in the game. Also, please bring back 1v1s. That is what Mortal Kombat is known for. It's cool to experiment, but let's not forget, Mortal Kombat was not built as an assist fighter. Some things shouldn't change, at least permanently. Some things you can change, some things every once in a while if you want to just like shake things up, but as a fan of this franchise, I just want to be excited about Mortal Kombat again. I want to be proud to be a Mortal Kombat fan again. I want to be thinking about playing Mortal Kombat all day like I used to when I was a kid. Like now, like when I'm working now or not home, I want to be excited about playing Mortal Kombat. The only game in recent games that made me feel that way was Mortal Kombat 9. Like, I would rush after work to come back and play with the boys like late to 3 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning sometimes. Like, the gameplay of that game was just amazing for that time period. And I remember having such fond memories of that. And like right now, like that just doesn't do it for me. As much as I love Mortal Kombat right now, I just hate where we are as a community. It's so toxic. Like, you can't even go on Twitter without all the negative stuff, bro. It's so negative when it comes to Mortal Kombat. Like, it's just so hard for me to talk about the game and just like talk about like Mortal Kombat as a whole, because people just dunk on the game, just dunk on Mortal Kombat right now because of the way it is, and I can't blame anybody for feeling that way. And that's just the thing. Like, it's so bad, bro. This game just isn't what Mortal Kombat is supposed to be. Like, I have faith that Ed Boon and company can right the ship, but whether it's the next DLC or the one after it, it needs to make sense. It has to make they have to make Mortal Kombat great again, bro. And like, I really hate using that kind of term because it's stupid, but it is what it is. Again, I just hate seeing the state that the game is in right now, and the franchise as a whole is right now. It's a cool thing to hate on Mortal Kombat right now. Like, now the majority of the channels on here just shade the game or the developers. Like, the hate watching is a problem, but this is ultimately NRS and Warner Brothers' fault. Like, I got no ill will towards the people who do make these hate videos, who do make these videos where they're just negative and just don't like anything about Mortal Kombat. But you gotta understand something too, is like, these people, it's rooted in a love for the game. I'm sure not everybody does it to just be a douche to the game and just knock on it. I'm sure there are a lot of people that love Mortal Kombat and like want things to change. That's why they dunk on the game, but it's just so hard to deal with, like, all the time, just seeing no positivity in the community. And like, again, like I said, this is all NRS's fault. This is all Warner Brothers' fault. What they've done with this particular game has really put people in a lot of like bad state. And even like it's not even just this game, it's all the games in prior years. The story has veered so far off of what made Mortal Kombat so good. And like I said, I would never tell anyone how to fan for the game. I just wish Mortal Kombat was in a better state. Like, obviously, it not being in the top 10 games for fighting games for Evo is crazy. Like, the fighting game scene is bad right now. Like, the fighting game scene really pushes and helps Mortal Kombat. Like, it goes hand in hand. It's a fighting game. Fighting games, like the esports, pushes people to play the game. It pushes people to do things like that. Like I said, I'm not gonna tell anyone how to be a fan, but at the end of the day, I just wish Mortal Kombat was in a better state. And like, I just wish that I just hope that they get it together at some point. But that's gonna do it for me, sincerely, concerned Mortal Kombat fan.
Please fill my cup. Am I really asking for much? It's been a long week, I'm looking for fun. Please fill my cup. Find me under the sun. SOS, I'm just looking for a good time. Whoa.